What's up everyone, my name is Guillaume and welcome to this new episode of Hit the Tone. I forget to breathe. Because I don't need to hammer that one half as much as I need to hammer that one, so it's fine. The blood back down. Alright guys, I hope you're all doing fantastic today and welcome to this new episode of Hit the Tone on Thomann guitars and basses. If you're not familiar with the format, I'm taking legendary riffs and try to give you all the tools you need to hit the tone. I've already covered a ton of songs and I'll link the playlist in the description box down below, so go check it out. But if your favorite song is not on there, just let me know in the comment section and I'll get to it as soon as I can. While you're down there, if you can consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, that would be incredible. So thank you so very much in advance. And with that said, let's start with today's song, which is Misirlou by Dale. Now this song comes from the Greek tradition of music called repetiko and was then made super popular in the 60s with surf music by Dale and his Deltones. But I'm sure most of you guys will be familiar with that song through Pulp Fiction, as I am. But it's also just a really, really big milestone in rock and roll music and what Dale did for, you know, surf music, but just rock and roll. It was the invention of putting a Strat into a Fender amp with the reverb on 10, and how many people have been doing that ever since. It's a really cool setup, and to emulate that, at least to get to somewhat close to that sound, I'm going to be using my Fender Stratocaster today, as he was in the bridge pickup position, which was really predominant at the time because it was a lot snappier and was kind of cutting a bit easier through the reverb, because we're going to make that drip, and we're going to talk about it just now in our amp and pedal setup. Now Dale was playing through a Fender Showman head through the cabinet. You can see that in a lot of the live versions in the mid-60s, and these amps were actually handmade prototypes by Leo Fender that were given to Dale by Leo Fender. You can't get any cooler than that. But yeah, basically Fender Showman is early blackface circuit with the same kind of reverb. So we're looking at a really, really massive spring reverb, which is what I'm going to be doing today with that Fender Deluxe Reverb amp, which comes a little bit later in Fender history, but it's definitely close to that sound and, you know, that reverb. So settings are rather conventional. It's loud and the reverb is going to be on 7. More than that feels like it just reduces too much of the attack of the guitar, and as you hear in the original recording, it's actually really snappy still. So if you can make that happen with your amp, it's really, really cool. If you can't, don't worry, there are so many different reverb pedals that do an incredible spring reverb. If you want to check it out, Chris and I did a video on the Surfy Industries reverb tanks pedals, and they're absolutely awesome. Super, super great sounding units. I'll put a list of recommendations in the description box down below if you don't have anything that's springy enough for that kind of sound. But basically, that guitar into that amp with that reverb gets me to that sound. That's an awesome sound. It's really, really cool. I think it's fairly close to the original recording, even though the Showman was a slightly different type of amplifier, different reverb length as well. But I think that's close enough, and I'm going to stick to that sound, and we're going to go on to the final part of that video, which as usual is the most important, and is how to play the riff. And as usual, before we get started, please keep in mind that there's going to be a bunch of useful links in the description box down below to all the gear I'm using today, more recommendations to help you get to that sound at different price points, as well as the tabs for that song, so go check it out. Now, as far as the guitar goes, we're going to be tuned in E standard, nothing complicated here. It's going to be kind of hard for you guys, visual learners, to pinpoint on an actual Digdale playing video because he was a lefty playing with the strings upside down. That'll have some implications on the playing, we'll get back to that later, but first off let's have a look at the fretting side of it. Alright, as you guys saw, this is not really hard to articulate. You can basically play the whole thing with just the one finger going from one position to the next. Some of them are going to be a little bit faster, that's why I'd still recommend using several fingers to play that. Digdale was using several fingers to play it, so there's no shame in it whatsoever. It's not really hard to play. Once you're locked in on the riff and the progression, you basically just repeat it. Repetico, repeat. I assume there's something in there. But that's about as much as I'll say for the fretting side of it. Now let's have a look at the picking side. And as you guys have guessed at this point, this is definitely the harder part of learning that kind of riff. It's really, really fast alternate picking. And on top of that, I am deeply convinced that you do need to hammer the strings about as hard as you possibly can to get that really chewy sort of feel and transient, mostly on the low E. And what I was talking about earlier with Digdale being a lefty playing with the strings upside down as well, I think has a massive implication on that because he's going to attack the low E completely differently. For him, the low E is on this side, so he's going to have a lot more wiggle room downwards. And that change in dynamics, well, you're going to have more control if your low E is here because you don't want to hit the A string basically. He didn't have that problem. And so I think that also plays a part into how hard you actually need to attack that string to get to the right sound. And final bit of advice to play that right is that you really want to aim for the middle pickup, or at least somewhat in the middle of your playing area, playing zone here, because if you're going to be too close to the bridge, the sound is going to be a lot more metallic and you're not going to get that really chewy kind of feeling that you'd have by attacking the string just about there in the middle. Too much on the neck side and you're going to lose a little bit too much of the attack. You don't want that either. You're still playing on the bridge position, so I'd recommend just about here is fine, and from what I could see from videos and all, that seems to be just about the sweet spot. But with that said, I think that's it, guys. You have all the tools you need to hit the tone on Misirlou by Digdale and the Deltones. As usual, I hope that video was useful. I hope that maybe you've learned a thing or two, if not a song today, which is awesome. If you enjoyed it, please do drop a like and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on the next episode, because it very well could be about your song. Just let me know which one you want me to cover in the comment section and I'll get to you as soon as I possibly can. In the meantime, I wish you all a fantastic week and I'll see you next Monday in a new episode of Hit the Tone.